I never thought I'd stand in my cousin Lila's skin, feeling the silk of her designer dress cling to curves that weren't mine, while my blood boiled beneath the surface like tar in a summer sidewalk crack. My parents had spent years gaslighting me, calling my fiancé Ethan a figment of my delusional little mind, right up until they slapped me with the blame for Lila's hit and run that killed him, her dirty secret, my lifelong sentence. But tonight, at her engagement bash in this overpriced Manhattan ballroom, as the string quartet warbled some sanitized version of Canon in D, I was going to watch their smug faces crack when Ethan walked through that door, very much alive, and very much ready to collect on the debt they owed. It started 3 years ago, back when life in our fractured Jersey Shore family still pretended to be normal. I was Maya Reynolds, 25, fresh out of Rutgers with a psych degree that felt more like a punchline than a degree, scraping by as a barista in Asbury Park while dreaming of something bigger. Ethan was the spark, the brooding artist type with ink-sleeved arms and a laugh that cut through the noise like a lighthouse beam. We met at a dive bar poetry slam, where he recited some raw piece about lost fathers that had half the room in tears, including me. 6 months in, he proposed on the boardwalk at dawn. Salt air whipping our hair. A cheap cubic zirconia ring glinting like a promise neither of us could break. My family hated him on sight. Dad, the retired cop with a beer gut and a badge-shaped grudge against anyone who didn't punch a clock from 9 to 5, called him a freeloading dreamer. Mom, the PDA queen turned real estate hustler, whispered about his unstable vibes and how he dragged me down like an anchor on a jet ski. But Lila, oh God, Lila, my cousin, the golden child, Vassar grad slinging mergers on Wall Street, heir to Grandpa's real estate empire that Dad always said should have been his. She was all porcelain skin and razor smiles, the one who accidentally spilled red wine on my prom dress in high school, then bought me a knockoff to make up for it. She envied Ethan. I think his freedom, his fire. Or maybe it was me she hated, for daring to shine without her permission. The night it all shattered was a humid July evening, 4th of July weekend. Fireworks popping like gunfire over the Atlantic. Ethan and I were driving back from a gallery opening in Red Bank, his hand on my thigh, radio blasting Springsteen. Lila was in town, visiting from the city, and she'd insisted on tagging along for drinks after. We dropped her at her rental, a sleek black Audi Grandpa leased for her birthday, and that's when it happened. She claimed the wheel was sticky from some spilled soda, that she swerved to avoid a pothole. But I saw the text on her phone later. When the cops let me grab her stuff, a message to her sleazy boss/lover. Handle the loose end tonight? Promotion's worth it. The Audi plowed into us at 60 miles an hour. Ethan's beat-up Civic crumpling like tinfoil. I woke up in the hospital with tubes snaking my arms, doctors murmuring about concussions and internal bleeding. Ethan was gone, ejected through the windshield. They said, DOA at the scene. But Lila? She walked away with a sprained ankle and a tear-streaked apology tour. Maya. Oh God. I'm so sorry, she sobbed at the funeral, her arms around me like we were sisters instead of snakes in the same garden. The cops bought her story. Rich girl. First offense. Daddy's lawyer on speed dial. No charges. That's when the real knife twisted. Dad pulled strings at the precinct, buried the toxicology report showing Lila's blood alcohol at twice the limit. Mom orchestrated the family intervention 2 weeks later, in our cramped living room smelling of Febreze and regret. Maya. Honey, she cooed, her acrylics digging into my knee. You've been through hell. But talking to Ethan like he's still here? It's not healthy. He's gone. Baby. Imaginary friends won't bring him back. They drugged my coffee, Ativan. I later learned, and hauled me to the psych ward at Jersey Shore Medical. Schizophrenic episode. They diagnosed. Triggered by grief. Hallucinations of a dead lover. Electroshock therapy followed. Zaps that fried my short-term memory like eggs on a griddle. I spent 6 months in that sterile hell, scribbling Ethan's name on napkins until they took my pencils away. Lila visited once, dripping Chanel and crocodile tears, whispering, "Let it go, Maya." For the family. She was already back in the city, closing deals. Her promotion sealed with Ethan's blood money. Grandpa's will dropped a month after my release. Lila got the bulk. The beachfront properties Dad had slaved over. I got a pity check for 10 grand and a one-way ticket to starting over in a halfway house in Atlantic City. The betrayal wasn't just the crash, it was the erasure. They made me the villain in my own tragedy. The crazy cousin who dreamed up a fiancé to cope with her failures. Every holiday, every barbecue, the jabs landed like friendly fire. Maya's got her imaginary beau again, past the potato salad. But secrets don't stay buried in families like ours. They fester like untreated wounds. It was the anonymous email that cracked it open. 6 months after my release. Sent from a burner account. Timestamped from a VPN in Silicon Valley. Your fiancé didn't die that night. Lila's tech connections. Experimental neural transfer. Ask about Project Echo. Attached was a grainy video. Timestamped the night of the crash, not the accident scene, but a sterile lab in some nondescript Newark warehouse. White-coated text hovering over 2 gurneys. One held a body, Ethan's, pale and still. The other, a blank-faced volunteer, some homeless guy they scooped off the streets. A machine hummed. Lights pulsed. And then, nothing. The feed cut. Project Echo. I dug like a dog after a bone, burning through my pity money on public records and dark web forums. Turns out, Lila's firm wasn't just mergers. They funneled cash into black market biotech, courtesy of her boss's DARPA ties. Neural mapping, uploading consciousness, swapping souls like outfits at a sample sale. Ethan's death was a cover. They'd yanked his mind into that volunteer's body to test viability, but the transfer glitched. The volunteer woke up screaming Ethan's memories, while Ethan's original shell rotted in a pauper's grave. Lila covered it all, paid off the lab, torched the evidence, pinned the psychotic brake on me when I started asking questions. The deeper betrayal? Dad knew. His old precinct buddy consulted on the cleanup. Mom? She brokered the lease on that warehouse. Family first. Always. Rage doesn't fade. It ferments. I tracked the volunteer, now Ethan, trapped in a stranger's junky frame, to a flop in Philly, where he panhandled under the L tracks. He didn't recognize me at first, eyes darting like cornered rats. But when I whispered our private joke, "You're my anchor on a jet ski," the floodgates broke. "Maya," he rasped, voice not his, but the words pure Ethan. "They stole me. Stole us." We pieced it together over stale diner coffee. The transfer was reversible, but it needed the original neural signature. Lila had it, locked in her firm's vault, guarded like Fort Knox. And the machine? Destroyed. Except for one rogue prototype smuggled out by a whistleblower tech. The whistleblower was my Dr. Elias Crow, ex-MIT prodigy turned ethical hacker. Holed up in a Bernal Heights walk-up in San Francisco. Paranoia his full-time job. balding, bespectacled, with a tic that made his left eye twitch like a faulty blinker. Elias had coded the Echo software before bailing when Lila's boss pushed human trials. "It's not sci-fi, Maya," he said over encrypted Zoom, his face pixelated in the dim glow of server racks. "It's quantum entanglement on steroids, mines as data packets. Swap em clean. No mess." But the ethics? Buried deeper than Jimmy Hoffa. He had the prototype. A suitcase-sized rig humming with cryogenics and code he couldn't crack without the key. Lila's neural map. The plan crystallized over weeks of late-night calls. Ethan pacing his tiny apartment like a caged wolf, his borrowed body wasting away from strain. Controversial? Hell yes. Elias warned the swap could fry our synapses, permanent vegetable status. Or worse, merged psyches. Two souls rattling in one skull like dice in a Yahtzee cup. But what choice did I have? Let Lila waltz into her engagement to that Wall Street douche, inheriting the empire built on Ethan's ghost?
No.
We'd infiltrate. Swap me into Lila's body for the heist, long enough to grab the map from her firm server during the party chaos. Then reverse. Expose the truth. Watch the house of cards tumble. The decision gnawed at me, dark and sticky as guilt. Was I any better than them? Playing God with stolen flesh? Elias called it justice. Ethan called it survival. I called it the only way to claw back what they'd ripped away. We flew commercial, me from Newark, Ethan from Philly, Elias from SFO, converging on the city like arrows to a bullseye. Lila's engagement was black tie blowout at the plaza, 300 guests, caviar towers, and a string quartet that cost more than my old Civic. I checked into a flea bag in Hell's Kitchen, heart hammering as Elias prepped the rig in the hotel service basement, bribed with cash and caffeine. That night, as I slipped into the emerald gown, Lila's emergency spare, pilfered from her closet via a bribed doorman, I felt the weight of it all. The mirror showed my face, but soon it wouldn't. Ethan waited in the shadows of the alley. His eyes, those strangers' eyes, fierce with the love we'd lost. "You sure?" he whispered, hand brushing mine. Calluses not his, but the grip familiar. "Surer than Springsteen on a boardwalk," I lied, kissing him hard enough to bruise. Elias hit the switch at 8:47 p.m. The world dissolved in white noise. 1,000 needles pricking my skull. Memories flashing like bad acid. Lila's first merger. Her boss's cologne. The sick thrill of the crash. Then silence. I blinked, and porcelain skin stared back from the vanity. Lila's body, lithe, flawless. A weapon I'd wield like a borrowed gun. The ballroom glittered like fool's gold. Chandeliers dripping light over tuxes and gowns. Laughter bubbling like overpriced bubbly. Lila, glided in, air-kissing cheeks. The map's access code burning in my mind. Echo, 47 Lila. Whispered in a half-remembered boardroom haze. Mom spotted me first, waving from the hors d'oeuvres. Her Botox smile stretched tight. "Darling, where's that rock? Show Mama the bling." Dad loomed nearby, tumbler in hand, eyes scanning for loose lips among the old guard. Cousin Lila's fiancé, Brock, tall, bland as Wonder Bread, heir to a farm of fortune, pulled me into a waltz, his breath hot with scotch. "You okay, babe?" Looked spaced. I murmured something flirty, scanning the crowd for the server access point, a discreet laptop in the coat check, manned by a hungover intern. My phone buzzed. Elias. Rig stable. Window. 20 minutes. Heart pounding. I excused myself, weaving through the throng. That's when they pounced. The family table ringed like a wagon train, Mom.
Dad.
Aunt Karen with her wine glass perpetually tilted. Lila's engagement was their vindication, the prodigal daughter redeemed, while I rotted in obscurity. Lila. Honey, Mom trilled, patting the seat beside her. Tell us about this Brock. Solid. Right? Not like Maya's. Whatever. The table tittered, forks clinking like conspirators. Dad leaned in, voice gravel-low. Speaking of, heard from your crazy cousin lately? Still yapping about that imaginary fiancé? Jesus. Kid's lost it. Blames us for her breakdown. Like we didn't save her ass from juvie after that joyride bullshit. Joyride. That's what they called the crash in Whispers, the one where I took the fall. Forged confession from the ward. My signature on a plea deal that killed any civil suit. The secret they buried, Lila's DUI. Ethan's death. The neural ripoff. My crime? Loving too loud. Aunt Karen cackled, pearls shaking. Imaginary. Remember Thanksgiving? She set an extra plate, toasting to Ethan's ghost. We should have let her rot in that psych ward. Ungrateful bitch. Grandpa leaves her squat. And she slanders us. The mockery flowed. Wine loose and vicious. Each barb a fresh scar. Brock chuckled beside me. Oblivious. His hand possessive on my knee. I smiled Lila's smile. Nails digging crescents into my palm. Tasting bile. 10 minutes. Elias texted. I needed to move. But the rage rooted me. A vine-choking reason. Then Mom dropped the bomb. Casual as confetti. Good thing we nipped it.
Frank.
That Echo project? Lila's boss hushed it perfect. No loose ends. Dad nodded. Proud. Damn right. Family protects family. The room spun. Not from the swap but the confirmation they knew. All of them. The betrayal wasn't Lila's alone. It was the tribe. Circling wagons around their princess. I stood. Chair scraping like a scream. Excuse me, I said. Lila's voice honey over razor wire. Need to. Freshen up. But as I turned, the doors swung wide. And there he was, Ethan. In a rented tux that hung loose on his borrowed frame. Eyes locked on mine across the sea of silk and suspicion. Not imaginary. Not dead. Alive. And arriving like Judgment Day in wingtips. The gasps rippled outward. A wave crashing champagne flutes. Mom's hand flew to her throat. Dad's tumbler froze mid-sip. What the? Brock sputtered. Arm dropping from me like I'd gone radioactive. Ethan strode forward. Unhurried. That artist's swagger cutting through the quartet's falter. Up close. The stranger's face, pockmarked, hollow-cheeked, belied the fire in his gaze. The one I'd memorized on boardwalk dawns. Maya? Mom whispered, confusion cracking her facade. No, she thought I was Lila. The swap held. My old body was stashed in the basement, sedated under Elias's watch. But Ethan? He was the ghost made flesh, the loose end unraveling their tapestry. He stopped at the table, voice rough but resonant, carrying over the hush. Evening.
Folks.
Name's Ethan Hale. Maya's fiancé. The one you buried in paperwork and pills. The room held its breath. Phones emerging like vultures' beaks. Dad surged up. Face purple. Who the hell are you? Security. Ethan ignored him. Eyes on me. Lila's shell. but he saw through. Always had. Tell them. Maya.
Tell them about the night they killed me.
Or tried to. My cue. I stepped forward, shedding the poise like snakeskin. He's right. Dad.
Mom.
The crash wasn't an accident. Lila was drunk, fleeing her lover's apartment. She hit us to silence questions about her side hustle, Project Echo, stealing minds for the highest bidder. Chaos erupted, shrieks, flashes, Brock yanking at my arm. Lila. What the fuck? But I wrenched free, voice rising, the code spilling from Lila's lips like venom. Echo. 47 Lila. That's the key. The one you all protected. Ethan's consciousness, ripped from his dying brain and dumped in a junkie's body. You gaslit me, committed me, let me take the fall for her manslaughter. For your empire. Mom crumpled. Theatrical. Lies. You're deranged. Just like her. But Dad's eyes darted. Guilt. The cops tell. Ethan pulled a flash drive from his pocket, holding it aloft like Lady Liberty's torch.
Proof.
Lab footage. Emails. The works. Courtesy of Dr. Crow and a little whistleblowing. Want me to upload now? Live stream the family reunion. The quartet quit cold. Guests murmuring like a hive kicked. Lila's phone, my pocket now, buzzed. Elias. Map downloaded. Rig prepped for reverse. Get out. But the climax crested. Controversial as a courtroom circus. I could walk.
Swap back.
Let the lawyers feast. Or push it, expose not just the crash, but the cover-up, the neural theft. Drag them all into the abyss. Ethan's nod was subtle. Your call. I chose the abyss. Call the cops? Dad. Let's see how your old boys club likes federal charges, human experimentation, wrongful death, conspiracy. Security swarmed. But Ethan was already hitting send. The drive's contents flooding X. Reddit. Every aggregator from TMZ to the Times. Hashtags bloomed. Imaginary no more echo exposed. The ballroom dissolved into pandemonium, women fainting into caviar. Brock bolting for the exits. Aunt Karen shrieking about slander. We slipped out amid the scrum. Ethan shielding me, Lila's body, but his hand familiar on my back. In the basement, Elias worked frantic, the rig whirring like a hive of angry bees. Risky, he muttered, needles pricking. Adrenaline spikes could scramble the transfer. The zap hit, world fracturing again, Lila's mergers bleeding into my memories. Her lover's whispers. The crash's crunch. I woke gasping in my own skin. Ethan slumped beside, his borrowed face slack. We didn't wait for the fallout. By dawn, we were on a Greyhound West. Elias driving the rental. The flash drives backups burning holes in our packs. News alerts pinged. Wall Street heiress in body swap scandal. Family cover-up rocks pharma elite. Lila was in custody, babbling about hacks. Mom and Dad lawyered up. Their real estate empire teetering. Justice? Debatable. We'd violated laws ourselves, illegal tech. Assault via proxy. Ethan's body was failing. The transfer's toll mounting. Doctors gave him months without a full remap, which meant diving back into the black market. As the bus rumbled through Pennsylvania farmlands, Ethan laced fingers with mine, his grip weak but warm. Worth it, he asked, voice fading like an old cassette. I leaned into him, the boardwalk salt phantom on my tongue. For you, every controversial inch, But in the quiet miles, doubt crept. Had I avenged us? Or just traded one cage for another? The family splintered. Sure. But so were we. Souls stitched with stolen thread. Happy ending? Tragic footnote? You decide. That's the American way. Chew on the gray. Spit out the bones. The greyhound's hum was a lullaby for the damned, rocking us through the Rust Belt's skeletal factories, where dreams went to die under graffiti-scarred overpasses. Ethan dozed against my shoulder, his borrowed breath shallow, each one a reminder of the clock we'd stolen from fate. Elias hunched in the seat ahead, laptop glowing like a foxfire, monitoring the digital wildfire we'd ignited. Echo Exposed trended at number 3 worldwide. Memes morphing Lila's engagement photo into a Frankenstein mashup, her smile stitched to Ethan's crash site glare. Cops are circling, Elias muttered, not looking up. Feds too. DARPA's involved, they hate loose prototypes. I nodded, scrolling the feeds on my burner phone. Pundits on CNN dissected the sci-fi hoax, psychologists on Fox blamed grief-induced folie à deux. My old ex-account, at My On the Mark, dormant since the ward, had resurrected. Flooded with DMs, survivors of gaslighting, victims of family cover-ups, even a few echo test subjects, their stories raw as open veins. One from a vet in Detroit, they swapped me after IED. Woke up in a kid's body. Thanks for the light. Controversy brewed. Petitions for investigations clashing with think pieces calling us vigilantes, eco-terrorists of the mind. But the real storm brewed inside. Lila's memories clung like burrs, flashes of boardroom conquests. The thrill of closing Grandpa's beach house sale to a Russian oligarch. The night she floored the Audi. Heart pounding not with regret, but exhilaration. Loose end, she'd thought, glancing at Ethan's Civic in the rearview.
Me?
I saw the skid, his hand jerking for my thigh, the fireworks blooming blood red as metal screamed. Waking in her skin had been violation squared. Now, echoes of her ambition tainted my rage, whispering that power tasted like victory, not ash. We ditched the bus in Pittsburgh, holing up in a no-tell-motel off I-76, the kind with hourly rates and walls thin as conscience. Elias jury-rigged a neural scanner from the prototype scraps, hooking Ethan to 4 drips pilfered from a clinic dumpster. Stabilize the synapses, he explained, his twitch worsening under the fluorescent buzz. But full reversal?
Needs a clean donor body.
And time we don't have. Ethan's original shell was dust. But the map, Lila's vault copy we'd snagged, held a blueprint. Theoretically, we could print a vessel. 3D, flesh from biotech vats. But that meant cash, connections, and a lab not crawling with feds. Ethan woke sweating, eyes wild.
Maya.
Felt you in there. Lila's head.
Cold.
Like swimming in oil. He gripped my wrist, pulse fluttering. Did we go too far? That party, exposing them? Yeah. But the swap? We're monsters now. His doubt mirrored mine. The controversial core, revenge as mirror, reflecting our own fractures. I'd borne their crime, the manslaughter plea, the psych label, but in payback, I'd stolen a life, if only temporarily. Ethan's theft was deeper. His soul bartered like crypto in a bear market. We finish it, I said, stealing us both. Remap you proper. Then we vanish, Portland. Maybe. Brew coffee. Paint sunsets. Lies. Sweet as diner pie. But they bought us the night. Elias traced leads to a rogue clinic in Cleveland. Echo tech's gone underground, trading neural tweaks for Bitcoin. Dawn found us on the road again. Elias's rental wheezing through Ohio's flat despair. Radio crackling indictments. Authorities seek Maya Reynolds, 28, and accomplice Ethan Hale, wait, presumed deceased in connection to Fames of Funny Poison. Bitter on the Tongue. By Cleveland. We ditched names for cash. Elias bartering his code for a back-alley procedure in a converted auto shop. Fluorescent tubes flickering over oil stains. The doc was a wiry Korean-American named G. Face scarred from some lab purge. Eyes sharp as scalpels. Map's good, he grunted, slotting the drive into a humming console. But body's beta grown fast. Rejection risk high. You swap, or you fade. Ethan lay on the gurney, tubes snaking like accusations. His nod the only vote needed. The transfer hit like lightning in a bottle. Agony distilled. Memories colliding. My boardwalk proposal crashing into Lila's merger highs. Ethan's poetry slams fusing with her crash adrenaline. I blacked out, surfacing to G's slap. You're in the new shell. Premium model, athletic build, clean slate. The mirror showed a stranger, 6 foot, lean-muscled, generic handsome with Ethan's eyes transplanted via graft. No. Wait, I was still me? No. The rig had glitched, shunting me into the vessel meant for Ethan, his consciousness stabilizing in.
What?
Panic clawed. Elias checked the logs. Face ashen. Double swap. You're in the print. Ethan's back in his original map, but routed to your old body. Stable.
But.
Basement copy was corrupted. He's Maya now. The twist gutted me. Sharper than the crash. Ethan in my skin. 5'4" frame. Psych scars and all. Blinking up from the auxiliary gurney. Feels. Right, he said. Voice mine. Lilting Jersey soft. But his laugh, when it came, was his deep, resonant, cracking the tension like dawn over dunes. Controversial didn't cover it. We'd inverted. Souls crossed in a cosmic joke. Bodies bartered like poker chips. Was this justice's punchline? Or evolution's cruel gift? We fled Ohio under cover of a freak snow squall. The rental skidding toward the rust-eaten motels of Youngstown. News helicopters buzzed distant. Feds closing the net. Lila had lawyered up, countersuing for defamation and identity theft. Her ex feed a sob story of family betrayal by a troubled cousin. Mom's interview on Good Morning America dripped sympathy. Maya was always unstable. This fantasy, it's heartbreaking. Dad stonewalled. But leaks painted him as the precinct fixer. Pension hanging by a thread. In the motel. Neon vacancy buzzing like a migraine. Ethan paced in my old jeans, too tight on his broader soul. Weird.
Huh?
Your hips sway different. He grinned. But shadows lingered. The memories. I feel the ward. The shocks. Your rage.
Maya.
It's mine now. Intimacy warped. Hands that knew every curve navigating unfamiliar terrain. We made love that night.
Tentative.
Exploratory, his touch on my skin electric. Controversial as forbidden fruit. Bodies swapped. But love, that held. Stubborn as Jersey tide. Elias plotted our endgame from the laptop's glow, exposed the full echo network. Not just our sliver. Boss man's in D.C. Lobbying for neural weapons. Take him down. The rest crumbles. But the cost mounted. G's fee drained us. Ethan's new old body rejecting meds. Fever spiking like bad debts. My printed shell hummed efficient, but alien, stronger,
Faster.
yet hollow. Echoes of vat growth whispering doubts. Who was I now? Avenger? Or Echo herself? The climax brewed in DC. A gray sprawl of marble and malice. We rented a nondescript sedan. Elias hacking traffic cams to ghost us in. The boss, Victor Hale. Irony's barb. No relation, loomed in a Georgetown townhouse. Schmoozing senators over steak.
Hale.
Silver-foxed and silver-tongued. The puppet master who'd greenlit Ethan's rip. Lila's lover. Crash conspirator. Empire architect. Our plan: infiltrate his gala. Neural rig in a catering van. Swap him mid-toast for a blank slate drone. Force a confession upload. Controversy peaked here. Assault on a titan. Mind rape in the name of reckoning. Elias balked. This crosses red lines. We're not them. Ethan. In my skin. Eyes fierce. We are now. For every swapped soul. I nodded. The decision a stone in my gut. The gala glittered. Powers pantomime. Aides in pearls. Lobbyists in pinstripes. Champagne flutes clinking like sealed fates.
Tall.
Anonymous, slipped in as waitstaff. Rig humming in my vest. Ethan and Elias staged from the alley. Monitors flickering Hale's approach. He took the podium at 9 sharp. Droning about neural frontiers for national security. I circled close. Syringe hidden in a napkin fold, sedative. Then swap. Heart thunderous. I lunged mid-sentence. Needle pricking his neck. He slumped. Guests gasping as security swarmed. But the rig word online. Elias remote piloting the transfer. Hale's eyes bulged, then glazed, his mind yanked into the drone. A hollow-eyed nobody in the van. In his shell, I felt the flood, DC deals. Echo expansions. Lila's pillow talk post-crash. Upload now. I hissed into comms. Elias hitting send. Hale's memories. Unaltered. Beaming to every server from WikiLeaks to the Post. The confession spilled digital. July 4th. 2019. Authorized extraction on subject Hale.
Ethan.
Viability test. Cover. Fatal collision. Pin on relative. Screenshots of payments to dad's precinct. Mom's wire transfers. Lila's promotion memo. Chaos detonated. Sirens wailing. Guests fleeing. My printed legs carrying me out amid the crush.
Ethan met me at the van.
Face, mine, pale but grinning. It's done. Networks imploding. We peeled out. DC's lights blurring to taillights. Feds in pursuit. But the twist reversed again. Bitter as backlash. Hale's shell rebelled. Neural feedback frying the rig mid-escape. Pain lanced. White hot. Elias swerved. Van fishtailing into a guardrail. I woke in wreckage. Sirens closing. Ethan's hand, my old one clutching mine.
Maya.
Love you. His eyes dimmed. The rejection claiming him. Soul untethered. No, not him.
Me?
The monitors flatlined on my print. Vat flesh failing under stress. Ethan's consciousness. Routed wrong. Clung to my original body.
But I. Dissolved.
Essence scattering like pixels in static. Last sight. Him. In my skin. Mouthing promises as medics swarmed. Happy? Tragic? The feeds would debate, heroes or hubristic fools. Dismantling an empire at the cost of selves. In the ether, I smiled. Worth every swap. Waking or not waking is a thief's art, silent as the tide stealing sand from underfoot. I drifted in the limbo of failed transfers. A ghost in the machine, fragments of Maya pinging like faulty code across neural nets. Voices filtered through. Elias's, hoarse with grief, briefing feds in a sterile ICU. It was mutual.
She chose the swap.
For him. Ethan. Alive in my flesh. Monitors beeping steady for the first time in years. The news cycle churned. Body swap Avengers. Heroic takedown or mad science menace? Petitions surged for echo bans. Senators grilled on C-SPAN. Lila's empire crumbling under SEC probes. Mom and Dad indicted for obstruction. Ethan mourned publicly. My old face on every screen, pressers in borrowed blazers. Voice cracking Jersey raw. Maya wasn't crazy. She was brave. They stole our lives. She gave them back. Controversial icon overnight. He leveraged it. Foundations for neural ethics. Lawsuits gutting Hale's network. Scholarships for psych ward survivors. My family splintered. Lila in Supermax. Orange jumpsuit clashing with her highlights. Dad's pension revoked. Haunting boardwalks with a flask. Mom's selling knockoff purses at flea markets. Her Botox sagging like defeated sales. Justice. Served cold and viral. But me? The print body perished in the crash. That flesh no match for twisted metal. Elias smuggled my core map, a digital husk. Consciousness compressed to terabytes. Onto dark servers. A digital mausoleum. You're not gone, he whispered to the code. Before vanishing to some Vancouver hacker commune. Ethan visited weekly. Uploading memories, boardwalk dawns, poetry slams, our warped nights in swap skins. Miss your sway, he'd say. Fingers on keys. Building me a virtual shell, avatar Maya. Coffee brown eyes and stubborn chin. Haunting his laptop like a benevolent specter. Time blurred. Years compressing to uploads. 2026. Ethan testified before Congress. My old body leaner. Wiser. Inked with our story, a lighthouse beam on his form. He married a neurotech whiz, Lena, who cooed over my digital ghost during game nights. Tell us about the crash again. Mayabot.
Ideki back.
Voice synth warm. Only if you spill the wine. Jealousy? Nah, gratitude. That he'd thrived in my skin. Fathered kids who called me Aunt Code. But the itch lingered. Full embodiment. A second print. Risks be damned. The debate raged online. Forums fracturing like fault lines. Maya's a martyr. Sacrifice for truth. Versus Frankenstein ethics. Who owns a swapped soul? Ethan's ex-threads dissected it. Polls tilting tragic, then heroic with each leak. Lila rotted in appeals. Her letters smuggled to Ethan. Cousin. It was business. Forgive. He burned them unread. But I parsed the scans, regret laced with venom. Her ambition unslaked even in chains. By 2028. Biotech leaped legal neural prints. FDA-stamped vessels for the terminally glitchy. Ethan pulled strings. His foundation bankrolling my revival. The clinic was worlds from G's auto shop, gleaming in Boston's seaport. Docs in scrubs crisp as fresh bills. Prep took months, mapping my fragments. Splicing with Ethan's uploads. Ensuring no Lila echoes tainted the weave. Stable this time, the lead tech assured. A southy lilt. No glitches. You're you. 101. The transfer chamber hummed sterile symphony. Ivy's cold as doubt. Ethan held my hand, Digital to flesh, eyes wet. Boardwalk awaits. Anchor. Zap. World resolving in pixels to pain to pulse. I gasped, lungs inflating fresh. Heart thumping mine alone. Mirror. Maya. Refined, scars faded, but the fire intact. 28 forever. Or 31 by calendar. Depending on the math. Re-entry was culture shock. American Dream rebooted. Ethan hugged fierce. Lena toasting with craft IPAs. Kids gawking. Aunt Maya's real. We road-tripped the shore. Civic upgraded to Tesla. Springsteen blasting as fireworks popped over the Atlantic. Controversial? The press hounded, Dateline special. Swapped and back. The Maya Reynolds story. Pundits argued, redemption arc or slippery slope to soul commodification. I leaned into it. Podcasting on gaslighting's ghosts. Lobbying for psych reform. They called him imaginary. I'd say. Ethan's arm around my shoulders. But imagination's the ultimate revenge. The family remnant surfaced. Olive branches rotten at core.
Dad.
Gaunt in a nursing home. Sent a card. Proud.
Kid.
Sorry. I visited once. The room smelling of antiseptic and unspoken sins. You knew, I said. No heat left. He nodded. Tears carving tracks. For the family. Forgiveness? Debatable. I walked out. Lighter. The betrayal's weight shed like old skin. Lila's trial was spectacle. 2029. Manhattan Federal Court, a circus of suits and stenos. I testified. Voice steady. The crash. The ward. The swap that set me free. Her eyes met mine across the bar, defiant, then crumbling as verdicts landed. Manslaughter. Conspiracy. 25 to life. Maya, she whispered in the hall. Chains rattling. Was it worth it? I paused. Ethan's hand in mine. Every bite. Ending? Pick your poison. We settled in Asbury, me brewing at a hipster cafe. Ethan painting murals of lighthouses and lost loves. Lena's firm pioneering ethical echo for the dying. Kids grew, calling me legend, not ghost. Happy. With bioluminescent edges, swaps irreversible in spots. Lila's whisper in my dreams. Hale's network's tendrils snaking policy. Tragic? Only if you tally the dead, the volunteer whose body Ethan borrowed. Fading anonymous, the psyches we displaced in the rush. But on July 4th, we hit the boardwalk. Salt air whipping. Fireworks blooming not red but gold. Ethan's laugh cuts through. Mine now deeper from the Prince timbre. Anchor on a jet ski, he toasts. Cubic zirconia glinting. I clink bottles. Souls synced. Revenge? Delivered. Debated. Digested. The American way. Messy. Magnificent. Eternally arguable. In the end, they mocked an imaginary man. But we arrived. Real as the tide, swapped. Scarred. Unbreakable.